Welcome to Familiar Territory, an anime podcast hosted by two white dudes who've been friends for over 15 years. Here we talk about the history and influence of anime, as well as review anime new and old. So grab your talking cap and transform into some comfy clothes as we step into a familiar territory. My name is Grant.
And I'm Brantley. Heads up, spoilers on the way. Check the description, see if you're safe to listen. I may not be an expert in Shinto religion, but I am aware of the concept of Yaoyorozu no Kami. That's interpreted to be myriad spirits. Basically through a lens of animism, like as a spiritual essence that's seen in everything. And each of those everythings is understood to play a role in life somehow. Even though I don't subscribe to Shinto beliefs, I can appreciate it as a worldview, because as far as I can comprehend, Symphogear XV is some kind of god beast created to test me and keep me chained to this podcast. I don't think I'm ever going to solve Symphogear, but that in itself is like a life-giving ether that's going to keep me going, if for nothing else than, like, spite.
Yeah?
Symphogear XV. Create a history with a light God could not know.
We fucking did it. We watched all of Symphogear.
Yep.
And my goodness, has it been a fucking ride.
Mm-hmm. Side stories don't count. Don't chase us down on that.
No, we're not gonna...
I don't think I have the stamina.
Yeah, there's a couple little like OVAs that we might have missed, but there is nothing left. We've done it. We've watched the show. Big. I want to give a quick big shout out to r/Symphogear for making, I think, probably this our most popular series ever.
Mm-hmm.
Hands down, people love hearing us talk about Symphogear. And by people love hearing us talk about Symphogear, I mean like 50% more people watch it than they watch our other stuff. So, Thanks.
Yeah, I think it's impressive considering that Symphogear doesn't even get, like, dubs, as far as I know.
Oh, yeah, absolutely not.
So, thanks for enjoying this, I guess. Now it's time to put a fucking end to it. Let's do this.
So Symphogear XV is the 5th season in the Symphogear franchise, making it the final season. After they have successfully killed Satan, it's time for them to kill God. So this show, this one is a... Real quick, let's I think it's about a fine time we rank our 5 seasons. I think it's a good way to start.
Okay.
I think my least favorite season has to be the original one. I just think at that point it's a little chunky. It's not quite a consistent fun show to watch. There's some interesting tidbits, but at that point I'm not sure how much they cared about it. I'm not sure if they knew it would become as long as it was. So it's my least favorite. I actually think for the most part, I go in the longer it goes on, the better it gets. I think next I have Symphogear G as my second least favorite. Symphogear GX sits right in the middle. However, I really think that Symphogear XV, which one we just watched, does not reach Symphogear AXV or the 4th season, whatever the fucking letter combination is. I think that one's the best.
AXE, yeah.
What about you? What do you got?
I actually prefer the first season over the second season. So really, I kind of have a sine wave going on. Well, not entirely a sine wave. It's a flipped sine wave, so I start at 0 and then sort of go down and then up and then back down, and that's where I land.
All right, I can see that. So Symphogear XV is pretty much, I think, the closest thing we get to a straight up direct sequel, where there isn't much of a time skip. It takes place almost, I think, a couple months after the fourth season ends.
Mm-hmm.
It is weird because it blends really quickly in my brain.
Mm-hmm.
But boy, I think this might be one of the weakest starting episodes.
Mm-hmm.
They start off by like trying to find that coffin in Antarctica, and it's just super weird.
They kind of end on like a loss, sort of.
Yeah.
On that first episode, so you don't get hyped up like you usually do. It's a far cry from how AXZ starts, where, as we've mentioned in our previous review, you're out the gate seeing Hibiki punch tank projectiles out of midair, and Chris is catching bullets in her teeth. Yeah. It's not that, but it's something.
So let's talk about. Do we want to do a plot overarching episode about this? I don't.
I wouldn't, but if you want to, go for it.
I mean, we have it in the past. We get the girls meet the remnants of the Bavarian Illuminati, which are known as Noble Red, and it's quite possibly the worst villain group. They're just very unlikable.
Yeah, we'll get into that.
So they are trying to bring back God, and one of the things that's really interesting about these characters, or at least was supposed to be interesting, is that the idea was that the villains were the underdogs.
Yes.
And that they were trying to fight a greater power, which is the Symphogears. But you don't really ever feel that. They try a lot of weird shit before they just finally get upgraded to be able to fight them. It's a mess. We'll talk about the characters that are in it. We see a lot of there's a lot of Tsubasa character development in this one, and I actually kind of dig that. As time goes on, they're trying to stop Noble Red from doing what Noble Red does, which is get the gods to come back down, and shit goes to hell. The characters have some problems, and Miku becomes a god. Tsubasa's dad dies in a fight where we get to see Genjiro fight the Kazanari clan leader. Miku as a villain was fun. I really liked they have a name for it, but I cannot fucking remember. Shemha, yeah. There's a lot of parallels with Fine that were fun, but the story is not nearly as out there as AXZ, because I think you're kind of expecting it. You're kind of like, all right, this is where they fight God, and they do.
Yeah. This is much like AXZ. This is a reunion season. They're trying to bring everything together and close things out. But AXZ didn't technically close things out, so you're getting the tail end of that. It's still kind of the same vibe. They bring back a lot of characters and sort of give them something to do. Villains that haven't been in for a while are going to get recycled so that they can have some kind of little redemption moment, or something relevant in the plot. But in general, there is not as much of a focus put on character development in this season, and the plot is pretty straightforward. Not that it necessarily makes a lot of sense when you're watching it. There's still a lot to just chew on. Lots of cryptic talk about Curse of Balal and what that's doing, and you get a lot of that because this is a very villains focused season, and like we said, the villains aren't that interesting to us personally. So I think that's where things kind of that's why it shapes the way we're describing it.
Yeah, it comes right off the heels of the Bavarian Illuminati, and that they were just so good.
They were designed to be, a force of nature that was also very, like, very intent on sticking to their goals all the way to the end instead of doing a usual Symphogear heel turn. Like, they still technically did that at the end, but they didn't shake their ideals for it.
Yeah, and this one has a really fucking whack redemption arc. I think this show starts to pop off at around episode 9, to be where Miku comes out and is finally Shimha, and she absolutely murders the noble red, and you actually kind of feel like finally something is happening. I think we get a lot of nothing for a while.
Yeah, there's a lot of, like, tug of war that's happening, where the villains try to do something, the heroes try to do something, and they just kind of keep awkwardly thwarting each other. So there's not a lot of ground made up. You know, I would say maybe the most significant among that would be, as you had mentioned, Tsubasa actually gets character development again, which hasn't happened for, like, quite some time. And I was pleased about that before, but I was proven wrong here. I ended up enjoying that bit.
Yeah.
But again, like, it's a lot of, like, the villains and the heroes sort of spinning in circles, which feels just kind of, it's not the same, like, punch go kind of thing we're used to out of Symphogear.
Yeah, and it's not even like a slow burn either. Every episode still gets an action sequence. You get everyone's very long and super detailed transformation sequences that are mainly hit or miss for me. And it seems like they want to. I don't know if it was because I wasn't the biggest fan of all of them, but I felt like they went on for way too long this season. But I think honestly the best way to continue with this season is to kind of talk about what we see out of the characters.
Yeah, I think they're the fulcrum that we keep coming back to as, like, the problems that we have with it.
Yes.
So if we're gonna keep hitting on that, we might as well go deep in. So yeah, character time. How about we start with the villains?
Okay, yeah. So Noble Red consists of 3 female characters.
We have Elsa, we have Vanessa, and we have Midark.
Yeah. So Vanessa's kind of the de facto leader. She is a robot, and she's very not super fun as a character. It talks about how all 3 of them were mutilated and turned into monsters from the Bavarian Illuminati as a way to save, the Illuminati and fight God.
Mm-hmm. They were given a sort of form of perfect bodies in the same way that Cagliostro and Prelati were in the previous season. But this time, it's monsters.
Yeah.
Which really is a loose term for saying we gave you augmented bodies.
Yeah, so, like, Vanessa is supposed to reference Frankenstein's monster, because her last name is Diodati. It's the villa in which Frankenstein's monster is based off of. She's okay. I mean, she was one of the creators of the Faust robes, which are what the Bavarian Illuminati in the previous season used. But after there was an accident, she was given a mechanical body. And it's kind of unclear what is robot and what is not. And by unclear, I mean it seems like she's entirely a robot.
Aside from, like, the head and the brain, maybe. But
yeah,
even then, like, no, well, I guess not. Because, like, she has, like, a slash in her cheek and it looks like there's metal under it, right?
Yeah, like, she's, as far as I know, completely robotic.
Mm-hmm.
Her moves are either super goofy and fun if you like that, the way that she fights. She's, every part of her is a weapon, including her tits, which they love to use. And I'm not a fan of it, but at least she's adult coded, so it's not horrible. I mean, it's terrible, but you can play it off a little bit more as a joke and it not be like, ah.
It's Symphogear trash as opposed to being, like, outright blech. On the topic of Vanessa, I feel like maybe out of the villains she has the most going on, perhaps. I at least appreciate that her roboticization is, like, her humanity has been removed. So, although they say, like, oh, we're monsters and, we're not human anymore, she has that in the most literal way, where, like, even though she resembles a human on the outside, she doesn't have, like, a fleshy body left over. But I still think she's pretty boring from then on.
Yeah, and it kind of sucks because, like, the idea of these three characters is that they were all kidnapped by the Bavarian Illuminati in one way or another to be used as test subjects. And, like, Vanessa's barely a character, and then the next character I want to talk about is Elsa. And Elsa is so tragic as a character that she kind of sucks.
Yeah, she's almost the most and least interesting for me, because it feels like she's the heaviest sympathy card out of the Rogues Gallery, but she has no, like, rational backbone to why she's doing what she's doing.
Yeah.
It feels like she really hates to be a part of this, so I have to question why she sticks around outside of feeling that this is her only anchor point in life.
Right. It's super weird because compared to Miliarch and Vanessa, Elsa is pretty much... She is, like, kid-coded. And as a fun little background, her last name is Bite, which is beast in French. And she's based off of the beast of Gévaudan, which is a man-eating werewolf. So that's her little shtick. I will say that even with all these complaints, I still love how stupid Symphogear loves to make its characters related to some very obscure historical reference, whether it be mythology or an actual person. I think that is something that is still to be praised. Anytime I talk about Symphogear with people who haven't seen Symphogear and I start mentioning, yeah, this character is based off this really weird, obscure person from the 1800s, people get interested, even if it's not something that I talk about, but it's, like, a lot. But they like it. They like that about the lore, and I think it's fun. Elsa is just a straight-up prisoner of war. The Bavarian Illuminati kidnapped her. They say they took her from her family that was abusive, like, and then they started experimenting with her, and she kind of became the little sister to Vanessa and Miliarch. But she never at one point seems like a villain. She always just seems like, I don't know. I feel like if any one of the characters should have got a redemption arc, it should have been her.
Mm-hmm.
And they could have done something similar, like with Symphogear G, where they had, like, Shiriba, like, defect before anybody else.
Yeah.
But I don't really think that there's much to say about her outside of that. She is a moe blob who's sad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, like, just to blanket statement this, I think the powers for these characters are fairly fun. I think it's kind of goofy and interesting that Elsa has this, like, rolling suitcase that she rides around on. Like, that's fun. That has her, like, her weapon attachments in it, basically. But yeah, I just don't have that much substantial to say about her. Maybe if I sat down and really poured through the text, I could, speak on behalf of what this character is engineered to be, but I feel like her place in the plot doesn't really make that cohesive. It feels like she's not in the right position playing this role in this way, for this season of Symphogear.
Especially because we'll talk about it after we talk about Miliarch. I think I'm pronouncing it right.
It's weird. We're just gonna have to pick something because it's spelled as it's romanized. It's spelled Millaarc. But and so in Japanese, and it's like Miraku. But then like when you pronounce it in English, it sounds weird just to say Millarch because it's not supposed to sound that Midwestern, right? Millarch. Millarch, cousin to Melvin. But yeah, so it feels like there should be like a rolling I in there somewhere, even if it's not written that way. So fuck it. We're gonna pronounce it however we feel like in the moment, and we'll go from there.
And I think that she is the fucking anchor that drags down this entire team.
Ooh! I have a joke. Can I tell a joke?
Yeah.
Okay. A wolf trots into a bar. Elsa says, "I'll have what she's having." A military budget lobbyist walks into a bar. Vanessa says, "I'll have what she's having." A vampire stoops into the bar. Millarch said something, but I don't remember what she said. It just irritated me and got pissed off.
That's so stupid. So
that's why I'm doing a podcast and not stand-up.
so Millarch is a vampire. She was kidnapped by the Bavarian Illuminati after they saved her from a torture club. Actually, she was kidnapped by the torture club and then sold to the Bavarian Illuminati. So horrible life that this Austrian lady had. Once again, they do a fun job at trying to create this national group of villains. Her name is an anagram of Carmilla, which is a character of the Irish Gothic novella, which is a vampire who preyed on a bunch of people. And then
I wish they just went with Carmilla, but
yeah, me too. And then her last name, Cranston, is an Austrian historian. She has a pretty big plot in terms of how it affects Tsubasa, but you just do not care about her because she super straight up kills a kid. It's
that does happen.
Straight up child murder. And
this is not conducted through the noise, by the way. Like, they're using noise to attack a whole stadium of people as per Symphogear standard. But then in order to, essentially hit the berserk button on Tsubasa, Millarch, what am I going to choose? Grant, how are you pronouncing it?
Millarch.
Okay.
I'm going full Midwestern.
All right. There we go. So, Millarch singles out a child and just stabs through her to essentially mess with Tsubasa. And it sucks. It really kind of killed any kind of sympathy we had been building up for any of the villain characters.
Well, she kills a kid in episode 2.
Yeah.
This is before you get any sympathy for the characters. And honestly, at first I thought that this show was I was legitimately at a point where I thought, oh, maybe that these characters are supposed to be this way. Maybe we're supposed to hate them. And then it tries to give you sympathy for them, and that sucks ass.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There is nothing in that interaction that suggests that Millarch was goated or developed into that kind of behavior. She's just like that. And although we tend to like shitstarter characters, not like this.
No, we like shitstarter characters, not child murdering characters.
Yeah, that's fair.
And once again, it's really weird because Elsa and Vanessa still have that Symphogear oh, I don't care about the civilians. I'm not really trying to kill a bunch of people. I just want to fight the Symphogear users. But Millark makes it so hard to even remotely think of Noble Red as redeemable, which is why when they get absolutely murked in episode 9, I thought that was it. I thought they weren't even gonna give them a redemption arc. Boy, was I wrong.
Yeah, she just doesn't. I think she has the flattest character out of all of them. She's just kind of annoying. She's either being very boastful or whiny, and that's about all she's got. She's just a sliding scale of those two emotions. And ultimately, like, okay, you know what? Here's a question. I think that Dr. Vare, via season 2, is a lot like her, but I didn't mind as much with Dr. Vare. So, what do you think is the difference there?
Dr. Vare is always looked at as a piece of shit. Even in his redemption, it's because he wanted to see himself as a hero, not because he gave a shit. So Dr. Vare doing all these shitty things is, you're not expected to like him, and most people like Dr. Vare because he's over the top, ridiculous, and stupid. But when Millark does it, it tries to make you feel sorry for her because she's protecting Elsa as she is dying. And God, that sucks ass.
Yeah. You know, I don't love to hate these characters.
Yes.
Like, I love to hate Dr. John Wayne Vare, because fuck that guy. You know, like, he just, everything about him screams, be mad at me. You know, he's an evil scientist who uses, abuses, and kills children. Like, he's maniacal and also an absolute coward at the same time. So he's just extremely hateable. And they rarely try to do anything to make you change that perception. But when you're trying to juggle that with these villains, it just does not land because they're trying to play both sides of it.
Yeah. Now, the big bad, though, is not God herself. It's big old Grandpa Kazanari.
Which I actually like. I like that they took that bastard and essentially integrated him into the plot.
Yeah. He is basically holding Noble Red as hostage by providing them with the blood they need to live. And he is a fucking dick. But in a good way. He is a character I love to hate.
He's up there with, like, Adam and Dr. Vare, where they're, like, the backbone villains that are the real, like, instigators of what's going on. They're highly idealistic and impossibly stubborn. So you have no conceit that they're going to turn around at all. So you're just waiting for them to get their asses kicked. Simplifies things quite a bit, which is something that Symphogear could use every now and then.
Yep, absolutely. He was... His found goal was to bring back Shimaha to kind of restation Japan as this imperialistic power to finally take over the world. It's a little confusing and a little out there, but I enjoyed his bullshittery. He does kill Tsubasa's father, and that kind of sucks, but you do get to see Kazanari Genjuro just absolutely murder him. Not physically, he stays alive because, you know.
But they get to have a fight scene, and it's satisfying.
Oh yeah, it's so good. His name is Fudo Kazanari.
Yeah. So, again, I think being able to take Granddaddy Fudo, who has already been involved in the geopolitical fuckery that the show's been doing so far, and just establishing, like, oh yeah, he's behind it. Sure, you know, great, works out. It's the Symphogear standard of, you know, essentially turn the the villains into a pyramid, and you just put a new person at the top, and then above them is someone else, and above them. It's very shonen. And he is a strategic fit for that. A lot more than anyone out of Noble Red. So,
yeah.
I'm all for it. Having Tsubasa's father get murked for character building, I think also works. I didn't really care for him and his Klonoa here anyways, so sayonara.
Yeah.
I think it's for the best.
I thought it was a fun character moment for him to finally do something to help his daughter.
Yeah, it almost felt like this was supposed to happen like a season ago.
Yeah, I honestly felt, and mostly because the voice actors were doing a damn good job, I actually felt pretty emotional during that scene. I thought that was probably one of Symphogear's best tragic emotion scenes. And it happened with Tsubasa during her entire end character arc. So let's move on to our heroes.
Really quickly, sorry.
No.
Can I give some villain stats?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so I went pouring through my anime list, which everyone knows is the absolute end-all way to quantify the importance of characters. So I was like, let's see what other people think about the villains. So Elsa and Millark only have 2 member favorites each. Vanessa has none. This show, season 5 of Symphogear, has, I think, 10,000-ish user ratings and an average score of 8.19 as of this recording. I think it's funny that, despite being, like, one of the highest ratings, if not the highest rated season of Symphogear, that people don't seem to care for the villains that much. So I feel safer knocking on them so much.
Yeah.
And also, to be fair, like, the auto scores in the Bavarian Illuminati really don't have member favorites either. Like, maybe, like, there are a couple standouts, like Gari has like 16, I think. Carol has like 40 something. So, like, you know, it's pretty normal for the villains of this show to not have a lot of, like, favoritism from fans, especially if you're considering that my anime list only lets you have 10 favorite characters, and that would probably go to the heroes of the show anyway. But yeah, just, you know, wanted to toss that in there. As a side note, Maria's dead plot sister, Serena, has more member favorites than most of the main villains. I think it's currently sitting at around 7.
Hell yeah.
I have no idea why, because she basically doesn't exist.
People love dead plot sisters.
Enough to make a favorite out of it?
No, I have no fucking clue. 7 people did. I mean, we're using...
If you're out there and Serena's on your favorites, then, I don't know, God bless you. You're doing something for the world.
Yeah. So let's talk about our heroes. And I think this is a good time to talk about where we place their transformation scenes. Because, like, in the last season, I think we liked almost all of the transformation scenes. I can't remember one that we didn't like. There's a couple, like, single shots that we were like, that could have been done without. But I think they got it really well in the last season. And I think this... I think this season has the hittiest hits and the missiest mitts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd agree there.
So let's talk about Chris. I think that Chris tends to... She's pretty in the back for this season, especially because after AXZ, where she spent most of the time being the figurehead of character development, there's not too much stuff that happens in this season that I'm like, oh yeah, that was a Chris part. She has her birthday.
Mm-hmm. But that's pretty short-lived. Isn't there a part where they do foreshadowing with her where they're talking about, like, deception and people, like, betraying each other, and Chris kind of thinks about it for a moment because, like, you know, she had done that back in season 1.
Yeah.
And did they ever do anything with that, or was that just, like, a little momentary, like, piece of padding.
I'm pretty sure it's just a momentary piece of padding where it was like, hey, Chris did this. Maybe she should make a comment.
Yeah, I appreciate the visualized thought that they're like, hey, remember, it's the thing, but it doesn't add much. And I'm gonna just preface that, like, I feel this way about a lot of the characterization in this season. Okay, continue.
So I can't even think of anything to say about Chris. She does get a super final attack where she makes a giant version of herself with a giant handgun, and that's fun.
that is fun, right at the end too.
But I think we got a lot of what we needed out of Chris in the last season. She kind of takes that role of that Tsubasa and Maria had in the last season, where she was the one that kind of was willing to just talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was fine. And I feel like Shiriba and Kirika are pretty much in the same boat for this season too. Yeah.
You know what, I should also say, I don't think it's wrong for them to ease up on characterization in this season. They did want to steer a lot towards the villains, from what I feel. And I don't think we've lost anything by them just saying, okay, these characters' arcs are done. They're just going to participate. I said the same thing back with AXZ. So it's not a knock on them to say, oh man, they don't have characterization or character development. Just to say, yeah, they're settled.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you have a large cast, it's okay that the characters don't do much. Especially when you kind of run back. Like I said, Kirika and Shirabe, they kind of solved their codependency issues in the last season, and in this season they're just there to kind of kick ass and do shit. But let's talk about their transformation scenes. So I liked Shirabe's, sorry. I think that I know that each transformation scene was either completely animated or designed by someone on the crew that liked their character the best. And I think some of that you can see. I think with Chris's, most of it's fine. There's one really terrible part where she reloads her guns with her boobs.
Mm-hmm. Even though we're used to this sexualized stuff in Symphogear, doesn't mean we've, changed our opinion on it at all.
Yeah,
it still sucks.
Yeah, but Shirabe's really does feel like someone took her character and actually made something that represented her. There's like one bad part where she runs yo-yos above on her body, which is really uncomfortable. But other than that, it's like an ice skating routine, and it's really good. I like most of it. I also like that she transforms to have ice skates only so that she can transform them back into Heelys.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's great. And there's Kirika's transformation, which is terrible.
Yeah.
I know we talked about this, I think, in either GX or G, but it is so fucking horny.
Mm-hmm.
And it also doesn't represent her character at all. I wonder if that's because Kirika's character is kind of just happy-go-lucky girl who likes Shirabe. But it's like a striptease, like a pole dance, and it's very weird, and there's almost no scene in it where it's comfortable.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Even then, it's moving around so fast that you can't really even tell what's going on. It's just kind of... It feels like it was made for the pole dance and sacrificed any other kind of, like, intricacy outside of that. Like, it's very one note compared to the other ones, which, they're also kind of erratic, but at least they're unique. As you mentioned, like, the ice skating for Shirabe, they usually are composed of a couple different fun actions. Whereas, Kiriko's is one note, and I don't like that note.
Yes, I agree. Let's talk about... I feel like we gotta talk about Hibiki last, just because she's Hibiki. I mean, like,
we're in charge of this podcast, not Hibiki.
I don't know about that. So let's talk about.
What, do you think she's gonna kill you with Gungnir?
Yeah, because it is a god killer, and you know what they say. I'm a mortal man, and if you punch me, I will cry.
I thought you were gonna say that you're immortal until proven otherwise.
That's also true. Maria's pretty good in this season. There's a weird plot twist that they do about with her gauntlet being a relic from an ancient god named Inki or Enke. I don't know how to pronounce it. And it doesn't really go anywhere. It has like a little bit of a connection, but the best part about her, it has to tie in with Tsubasa. So, spoiler alert for Tsubasa's character development when we talk to her. After Miliarch makes Tsubasa feel incredibly like down and just in a bummer, Maria is the one person that Song brings to fight Tsubasa. And it's a pretty good scene where you get to see Maria be all her girl bossing it. She's ready to fight, and her, once again, there's not really character development for her. She's just doing more Maria shit, and I think it works.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because Maria shit is being a pillar for the team. You know, she's just being mature, she's doing her lawful good shtick, you know, and that works. She's essentially the other side of Tsubasa's character development. Maria is who keeps Tsubasa grounded, and so while Tsubasa's having her character development, Maria's the one who gets to sort of be her ground to stand on.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that works. Also, I like most of her character or her transformation scene. I think it's pretty good. There's like once again just one scene that's super unnecessary.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's. Do you have anything to say about Maria besides her just being girl boss?
No, that's it. I
think we used girl boss too much in this podcast.
That's okay. We got it all out now. So.
I don't think we did. So let's talk about Tsubasa now. I think Tsubasa is it finally gets to have a character arc.
Yeah, I thought I was okay with Tsubasa also not developing, like, as like, okay, you know, she had her season 1 and season 2, so I'm okay with her being done like Maria is. But I take it back. They did a good job with it. It's, you know, I think them taking Tsubasa and her, like, you know, I am just a weapon sort of direction, and really kind of breaking its back out.
Mm-hmm.
It's effective for whatever reason. Like, here's the weird thing. Like, I don't like the way they use Miliarch to just, like, essentially, like, really easy gratuity points. Like, just, like, let's do something extremely graphic and traumatize Tsubasa. But Tsubasa, as being performed, is really good at selling it. She has an impressive vocal performance.
Yes.
Like, that was, I think, the moving part of all of this. It was the driving gear.
I agree. And I think that we finally get to see her tackle a little bit of the stuff that she got in season 1. You know, she still felt responsible for the first concert that got attacked by the noise and people died. And it was kind of sad to watch her try and protect these people and just couldn't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Having her get mind controlled as a plot device is kind of lame, but it works thematically with her because she feels like she's being used for perpetuating violence. So it's interesting. Like, all the things that, like, on paper I don't like end up working in execution for the most part with her character.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And it pays off super well, and I really like her transformation sequence. Well, I think hers is probably the best of the entire series.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's so much going on in it. That was the one I was thinking of earlier when I was talking about the transformations. It's just, she's going through a lot of unique poses. There's a lot of effects that are going on, and like it feels very her. It's timed to the music well. It kind of feels like it just hits on all cylinders.
Yeah, it's the exact opposite of Kirika in terms of it is just pure Tsubasa. It's a training montage with a bunch of stuff that it's referencing a lot of the original series, and that is another fun thing about this. The transformation scenes is they're all throwbacks to season 1, where they do the pose and then the like digitized stuff. It's just way more detailed.
Mm-hmm. Well, one more thing we should mention about Tsubasa. This season is full of fight scenes that don't rely on like the special attack flashes, and instead are just like,
oh fuck yeah,
I want to say like 10 to 20 second sequences of Tsubasa just having unique choreography slashing through enemies, and it's beautiful.
One of the best parts of the show, I remember we watched it twice, was during the concert when they jump off stage and start going into the crowd, and it is just Maria and Tsubasa just front facing camera just doing a bunch of shit. And it is so well choreographed, and they're not the only people that get it. That's one of the standout moments. But the choreograph in this season is so good. There's a couple GIFs I've been watching. There is a part where like Miliarch gets the duo part where there's two of her. It's over the top and stupid, and it has a bunch of wrestling moves. But my goodness, is there so much fun in that?
It's very creative.
There's a part where Shirabe and Kirika fight a bunch of noise, and it's the same thing where it's just like yo-yo tricks, just straight up yo-yo tricks, and it's so long, and it works so well. And then Maria and Tsubasa's fight scene is really good too, where it's just two Symphogears fighting. There's a couple weird scenes that they chose to put in there, but it's good.
There's a lot of cleverness for what is, mostly like a normal. It's mostly an average shonen series, right? I'm so used to just kind of like really mindlessly watching the characters beat on each other. It's just blow for blow stuff. People are like, oh, I'm taking hits, or they're blocking my hits, or it's just kind of whack, 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 and then someone does the special move or the smart thing, and then they kind of take the fight. But here, when they're fighting through noise or occasionally with the villains, they'll do these more interesting interactions, and they pay off. They look real nice.
Yeah.
It's very fluid and very creative with how it's used with the camera. People are moving in and out of the background. Yeah, it's one of the high points of this season compared to others.
Yep. There's a scene in the last season before we talk about Hibiki, where Hibiki is falling and she has to punch as she does. And as she's falling, these tentacles are trying to get her, and it's incredibly well animated, just insanely good. Even when the auto scores come back, man, we'll talk about that. But when we talk about villain redemptions, let's actually, before we talk about Miku and Hibiki, let's talk about Elf9. She has a little bit more of a character in this, because Carol comes back. Her transformation scene is not good.
It's terrible.
There's some, it could have been good. There's some really good ideas in it, but it isn't. And Elf9 is a little bit better of a character in this season. She is a little bit more active. She understands her role as having Carol's memories as important. They talk a lot about how all her spells are using Carol's memories, which is a fun like concept. She has some pretty damn good fight scenes, and it's very clever how they use it, because I like I said, ever since GX, I love the strings the string motif they have going on with her. And it's fun. There's not much more to say about it other than they put her in the forefront. There is a very fun part where Miku, Elf9, and Hibiki go to do karaoke, and that's fun. And I think
I can appreciate that her character conflict is very sciencey and researchy. You know, it's legitimately about, hey, I have these memories that come from war crimes. Should I even have this and utilize it, considering that it is stained with blood? You know.
Yep.
Not that I think that this show is necessarily like I don't think you should follow its messages on that topic entirely, just because, like, you know, there's far better ways to hear out that discussion, but at least, like, I think that's a good choice for Elf9 and Carol to be working through. Gives them something that's important and relevant to what their characters are doing in the plot.
Yes, absolutely. And I think it was a good choice for them. I do want to mention one part I really liked about Kirika and Shirabe before we move on. During their first transformation, when they're jumping onto the USS Thomas Whitaker, or the president from Independence Day. When they land, Kirika catches Shirabe and they do a pose, and it's really fun. But boy, was I hyped to see that they named a battleship out of the after the fucking president from Independence Day.
Yeah. Truly wild.
Thomas Whitmore is his name. That's it. It is wild, and it was perfect. But let's talk about Hibiki now. We've gone too far off. Hibiki's Hibiki in this season. I think that one of the best parts about her character in this comes from the fact that she and Miku are finally just, like, it's basically confirmed at the end of the series that they're girlfriends, and, like, there's no doubt, but there was a lot more focus on their relationship in this series and how they interact with each other and how they understand each other. And I think it's a good way to give Hibiki a character development without actually changing who she is. Because at this point, I feel like Hibiki, like most of the characters, has kind of already gotten past the issues that she has as a person. And I really like that there's a lot more scenes with them being a little bit more relationship focused, them hanging out a little bit more. The scene in the Ferris wheel is really good, and I really like that Miku doesn't get into the whole, well, you're always busy with superhero shit. It's like she understands, and I think that is a very good, I think it's a very good way to give her some character growth.
Yeah, their relationship features very little drama. It's like, obviously she gets possessed by Shemha, but that's not her. That's a different character.
Right.
So.
Right. And I like the way that Miku is in this season. She gets a little bit more of a role. She does get her Symphogear that she had in G back, just for like a little bit. And I really dig everything they did with their relationship. I do think that they are cowards for not having them kiss at the end. The absolute audacity to not even have them say I love you, but imply it. I mean, come the fuck on.
It's really lame.
And like, they do it in a way that's kind of fun, you know, where it's there's something I wanted to tell you. Yes, there's something I wanted to tell you too. I hope it's the same thing, which I think is cute, but I think that would have been better as like the ending of GX, right? Where we get to see that, but we don't, and we don't even get to see them kiss, which sucks because like they are canonically in love with each other, and God, I wish we got to see it.
There's enough in world that there should not be any mistake about it, but the fact that they don't have the guts to draw it and voice it, or, you know, script it that way, just kind of sucks. Yeah. There's no excuse.
And it's one of those things where, like, regular shonen anime with straight characters don't even do it. I think it's a problem with the genre, not necessarily Symphogear itself.
Yeah.
Where there's just such this hesitation to show like any form of romantic love outside of goofy settings that it's so. Ugh.
Could also be in part with the characters being a selling point, and them all being like idol types.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like, oh, we can't couple them up too deliberately, or else then people won't buy into the idea that they love this character a lot and fantasize about that.
I mean, it's wild though, because I know that the Symphogear fandom loves their relationships, right? They love and I honestly do too. I think one of the best parts is how charming the characters act with each other. I just wish they would solidify it with more than just overarching tones, because it's not even subtle, right? It's not like Madoka, right, where there is some arguments that can be made about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's the feeling of, if we really all know and we're in agreement here, just show it, just say it.
Yeah.
You know, you've mentioned before that the voice actresses, right, have basically like outright stated like the characters see each other as a couple, right?
They refer to the voice actresses refer to each other as each other's wives, as a joke. Like, and like I'm pretty sure the original Symphogear creator confirmed that all the Symphogear users are either gay or bisexual. And I'm sure he would love to show them kiss. But I feel like there is just this, if you are not a shoujo or a slice of life romance show, your characters can't kiss. I can't even think.
It's weird.
Because I can't even think of an action show where I've seen it happen before. It makes me upset, but
hey, I've got one. Naruto and Sasuke.
You know what's funny? You said I got one. I went, oh, who? And then I thought immediately to Naruto and Sasuke. But
well, I mean, they do show it in flashbacks.
Constantly.
There's like parts where Naruto is thinking about like, my rivalry with Sasuke, and they show that goddamn kissing scene, the accidental kiss. It's hilarious.
It's pretty good. And that's not to say the ending isn't cute. I really like the kind of sad understanding of, hey, we've solved the curse of Bilal, but there's still probably going to be problems in this world. But now we can finally understand each other. And the final shot's very cute, with them holding hands and looking up to the moon. That's actually the promotional poster of this series. And I thought it was good. But yeah, cowards. Absolute cowards, all of them.
Yeah, hey, by the way, sorry to everybody for spoiling Naruto. Naruto and Sasuke are in love. That's how the show ends. They get together. Everybody's happy about it. And if you're not, then you're just the odd one out. Really sorry about that in case you didn't know, but now you're in the know, so.
Yes.
If you see anything else, it's a lie. It doesn't exist.
Yes. I do think that there are some really fun, goofy shit in this season that are right up Symphogear's alley. My favorite of all time is Ogawa running away from Vanessa. He shadow clones his car, which is amazing. It's the highlight of Ogawa's character.
What do you think that looks like in the script?
It probably says, hey, you know how Naruto shadow clones himself? Yeah, Ogawa can do that, but with a car. And then in parentheses, he is stronger than Naruto.
There's a little scribbled picture to illustrate.
And you know what? I do like that for 1 second you see Ogawa's ninja clan.
Yeah, you see Ogawa's relatives, and they even like put their names on screen just so they can never be relevant or mentioned again before the show.
It is in the last episode. It isn't like the last episode after everything is done. It's incredible.
Yep.
Let's talk about some hype moments, because there are some pretty damn hype moments in this show.
I think I've pretty much said all of mine, so just go wild on it. Just
okay,
get it all out. Grant.
In episode 4, I believe, we get the first instance of the I think they call it the amalgam outfits, which are the best outfits in this entire show. It's the Faust robes mixed with the Symphogears, and they look incredible. They are simple, but still kind of over-designed in a Symphogear kind of way. All their weapons are stupid, but great. And they if I had to bring our running theory that this show is not nearly as horny as the creator wanted to be, I feel like that's the stuff they wanted. And during the first time you see the amalgam robe, it's Saint Germain talking to Hibiki, and she's like Hibiki's stand, and Hibiki gets 4 fists to punch people, and that kicks so much ass.
Yeah. Hey, quick sidebar. We didn't really mention it in the AXZ review, but we should now. The song uniforms that they wear are really good.
They are really good.
For bitching about how bad the outfits are in the show, they finally developed some fashion sense with the uniforms that they have with song. I really like them.
Yes, absolutely. There's the part where Hibiki launches Chris up, and it's like fucking instant transmutation, and she snipes a dude in midair.
Instant transmission.
Yeah,
I think you had your shonen.
I get everything is fucking in my mind right now. And she snipes someone in midair. That part's cool. There's the part where in the end where everyone gets their super attack, and Tsubasa has like fire hair, and there's a robot for some reason. That part fucking ruled.
Yeah, I do like when they just randomly create metabots that fight for them for a while.
There's the part where it's very simple, but Shimha has like points her fingers, and then a bunch of lasers show up on her hands, and then she fires them out. That part's really cool. I actually I like some of the scenes in the Antarctic part. It's not nearly as exciting as the tank part, but there's a part where a scientist is running away, and a bunch of the robots are coming at her, and Shirabe comes in, and since it's on ice, she's ice skating, and she's spinning and killing all these robots, and it's really good. It's one of the most competently made, exciting action shows out there, which is a wild thing to say. I really, really like it. I will talk so much shit about Symphogear. I mostly complain about it to my friends. But if anybody who hasn't seen Symphogear says, yeah, it seems shitty, I will fight them. Because you have to watch it to be able to say it's shitty. So Brantley, you can say it's shitty, but no one else can yet. They also
I feel honored.
They also just straight up say the tagline of this show, so that's fun.
You mean they drop the subtitle?
Yes, they do.
Create a history where the light god could not know.
It's so fucking good.
And for it's a rare time where it's a complete sentence, as opposed to something that just trails off.
Yes. But yeah, I think that overall Symphogear is a ride. It is a non-stop bullshit ride from start to finish. There's gonna be parts where you're a little exhausted with it, and you're trying to piece together everything. But with the songs that get played, the action sequences mixed with the silly characters, and legitimately some very good voice acting. I cannot express my feelings towards Symphogear because they're so fucking weird.
I can agree with that.
I cannot say that I do not like it. I cannot say that I would not suggest it to anyone. If I'm talking about Symphogear, I want whoever's watching it to know what's going on. And my goodness, is it a complex relationship with this show.
Yeah. If you're looking for my summary of this season, I would say that XV is the perfect series ender because it captures the paradoxical, distilled essence of Symphogear being an overcomplication of really simple shit that dies before it would accomplish consistency.
And I think that's exactly how it should go.
Exactly, right? Because if let's say Symphogear just turned into like GX all the way through its final 2 seasons, where we have, hey, it's the villain fight, we lost the fight, now we win the fight, we learn a thing. If they just did that, then I'd almost just suggest that we stop watching it. But they never stopped changing things up. Sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse. Like, I would say that Symphogear XV doesn't satisfy me in the ways that AXZ did the season before, but I don't feel like XV sullies it either. Like, I can still appreciate AXZ as its own kind of series ender, and then XV is just a little extra at the end.
Yes, I agree.
If that kind of random wackiness sounds entertaining, then go and watch Symphogear. I would say from the start, because eventually it does have stuff that pays off, and why not? It's bonkers all the way through, so it's a consistent inconsistency that's just truly wacky to experience. Also, it's pretty gay, and that's tight, so like if you're into that, it's got you there.
Real quick, to finish off my my hype moments, because I totally forgot a couple moments.
Okay.
The ending scene, I really like all their sort of fire hair they have, like the lighter color palette they have. I think that's really, really good.
It's very die buster.
It is very die buster. That's actually an incredible way to do it. I really liked the part. I like the part with the auto scores. I didn't think they needed a redemption arc because they've always kind of just been the puppets of Carol. But when the Noble Red is about to kill Elf9 and you see them do their little dances on screen, I immediately thought to how much I liked them as just villains. It's weird that they got a redemption scene because it's like, who gives a fuck? But they did. One of the things that Kaneko Akifumi, the series and script creator of Symphogear, people say he never forgets because everything he puts in his show has a reason, which is a wild thing for it being Symphogear.
Yeah.
But yeah, you've always asked me when you were talking about, and you're like, would you suggest people start Symphogear here? I just don't think you can. I do not think there is a way to watch Symphogear except to completion.
Yeah. Certainly don't start farther in. Some people might say, oh, it gets good at this point, but you really need to know how much it gets better by starting at the beginning. I might not have always thought that way, but I definitely do now. Symphogear is weird because I feel like it has a maximum capacity that doesn't hit a quantitative 10 out of 10, Right,
100%.
I can look at some shows, the Cowboy Bebops, and say, yeah, that's, like, even if I feel like there are some weak points here or there, I would never take that 10 away from it because there's so much artistry and, sort of maximized potential and execution that I couldn't expect anything more of what this is. And so therefore, it deserves, the highest marks that I would, numerically give it. I kind of feel like Symphogear is that same way, but I wouldn't give it a 10 because it's already kind of fucked up at the concept level.
Yeah,
it's kind of a weird, twisted, contradictory concept that relies heavily on, essentially the characters being dolled up and sexualized and carrying the the awkward, shambling plot. But I don't have any critical ideas of like how to really do that better without changing the identity of Symphogear. I'll bet most of the things I just mentioned right there are things that people who really love Symphogear gladly want to have in the show. That's why they come here for it. So, unless I would take that away from them, I don't know what to say to improve Symphogear. Just that I wouldn't give it those highest marks.
It's
so weird. It's just so weird.
Here's the thing. Symphogear is perfect when you think of it as Symphogear. Yeah. And that's all that can be said about it. You cannot compare it to anything else. You cannot try and quantify it in a objectively good, objectively bad. You just think, did Symphogear do the most Symphogear it could do? And the answer is yes.
Mm-hmm. It's a Symphogear out of Symphogear.
And that is the best way to put it. So is it, I think it's time we talk about themes.
Oh boy.
So we this is one of those things where I feel that we can talk about the entire themes of Symphogear as a series, not necessarily as XV, because I feel like XV just expands on it.
Yeah.
What are some themes you have of Symphogear?
As a whole?
Yes.
I was stuck feeling like the themes of harmony and violence were kind of at odds with each other, that they're diametrically opposed, and so the themes didn't quite make sense. But now that we got to God killing, then okay, now some things are straightening out. Defying harmony is, I don't want to say like, oh, it's human nature. It's more than that. It's existence, right? We can't all be the exact same living existence. And so, difference exists, and that diversity invites some amount of conflict. But that's not a bad thing. Symphogear kind of leans into the idea that war is compulsory. That, because we have differences, that means we fight, which I don't really agree with. But I'd agree that we have boundaries set, that we have argumentation, that, conflict in a way will still happen, just that it doesn't have to come to bloodshed. And I definitely don't agree with, say, like, season 3 and 4 themes that bloodshed tends to, like, lead to strength, or, like, that eugenics idea of, like, we will make a better human race. But I think Symphogear XV finally gets to its point, and that is that if we wait on God to get along, we never will. So we try to do something about it. Do I think that Symphogear conveys that well with its geopolitics? Probably not. I probably wouldn't trust any one piece of media to like solve that thematically anyways. But like, yeah, if you want to really reduce it down, it's the classic RPG, unite the world against one common enemy, and that common enemy is the idea that we must fight each other over our differences. It's, cliche in that sense, but when they tie it into the ideas of music as a universal language, then I think it gets its own unique hook in there. I don't care for how many fascists we forgive along the way, but, again, I'm trying to be reasonable with what Symphogear is delivering. I'm not agreeing with its methods, but its greater message, I think I get it. Or at least I'm getting the best version of what they might have created there.
And I agree. I think it could just be summed down to, when you said the enemy we have to fight is the fact that we're fighting based on our differences, and they make some legitimate curse as the reason that happens, which is a little weird, but I think it fits. It fits Symphogear's kind of reductionist look at everything.
Mm-hmm.
and it makes it legitimately enjoyable. I don't go into Symphogear expecting to have to think about geopolitics, and when it does make you think about geopolitics and the human condition, it's pretty good. It's pretty good for what it is.
Could be worse.
It could be worse. There's a lot of shows that we have seen that were worse. And there's a lot of shows out there that are worse.
Go watch our review on Earth Maiden Arjuna.
Yes. That's a good one to go check out if you want to have us talk shit about something. I will say that I think watching Symphogear with you has been one of my most exciting anime rides, and I've seen a lot of fucking anime. So yeah, if I don't really have much to say about themes. I kind of wanted to hear your thoughts on it because I tricked you into kind of complimenting Symphogear. Which is honestly the entire end goal of this series, was to make you think that you liked Symphogear at least a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I'm giving it the benefit of the doubt. I feel like that's already a major shift from season 1.
Yes.
For those who are trying to keep score on my own reviews of Symphogear, this one doesn't get a 7 out of me this season. But you got it with AXE, so, you don't push your luck.
All right, so our hypotheticals for this episode are going to be a little bit more in universe. Normally, our hypotheticals talk a little bit about us, but we've separated the characters, and we're going to give them all epilogues.
Mm-hmm. We were really hoping that they would give characters canon epilogues in the end, but they didn't. So we're going to do their work for them.
So let's start with the least important characters. So what happened to the bridge crew, Brantley?
Okay, so starting with Aoi, she continues to hold down the fort at Song, because as far as we know, there's still shit to do for the Symphogears and everything. If I remember correctly, they didn't lose their Symphogears, and Alka noise might still get created, whatever. But anyways, as long as Song's still there, she's gonna stick around. But rumor has it that she's writing her memoirs, titled "Shattering God's Glass Ceiling."
That's so good. That's so good.
If you're wondering who Aoi is, yeah. Us too. She's, as Grant said, she's part of the bridge crew. Okay.
So let's talk about Ogawa. So Ogawa, after reuniting with his ninja clan, that's where he stands. He officially leaves Song to pursue being the next Hokage for his ninja clan. However, he is involved in music production and agencies with one Tony Glazer.
Love it. I love it. So is he in the booth then?
He is.
What do you think?
He runs the security detail, and he also is in charge of. He's in charge of merchandise.
Gotcha. Love it. Love it. Okay, next up, Sakuya, the other member of the bridge crew. He starts to go open source with Song Tech in order to promote technology transparency. Good on him. He also gives his blessing on a new brand of calculators that ends up unseating Texas Instruments as the leading brand. Their slogan is, "It all falls into place," and the ads that they show feature the falling cubes from the Song headquarters screensaver that they put on the walls.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. So I believe I mentioned Tony Glazer as helping out with Ogawa. Think that Mr. Glazer returns to producing music. I would like to believe that he is maybe in talks with Tsubasa, because of the last time we see him, he says that if she ever returns to music, Tsubasa should give him a call. But other than that, he's enjoying a semi-retired state now that the world is now that the curse of Balal is gone. He was able to reconcile with his wife, and they've since moved back in together.
Oh, his wife.
Base Tony Glazer.
Do you have Tony Glazer as a favorite on your list?
No, he's a favorite on the Familiar Territory anime list.
Fair enough. Okay, next up, Kazunari. To specify Genjiro. He gets very into Craigslist with Hibiki's help. And he doubles his collection of movies in 1 year. Also, he gets a new couch, and it's pretty decent. That's it.
Is he still work at Song?
I don't know. I didn't think that. You know what? Let's say yes.
Okay. So let's talk about Elf9. I think Elf9 has become the only person on the bridge crew that actually does any work by herself, because she realized that she really was the only person doing any work on the bridge crew. Now that she is saved from all the war crimes that were stored in her memories, she finally was able to go to karaoke and sing her song, and that was mediocre at best.
Oh,
but she's trying.
Good on
she
her.
She also went on the game show The Chase and won a ton of money.
Okay,
for
then.
being a genius.
Alrighty. Next up, Chris stays single and starts an orphanage. So she's perpetually, begrudgingly being somebody's guardian, basically. I'm convinced there's no way anything else could happen except that. One of the kids that she takes care of grows up to be a children's author and turns Little Red Riding Gun into a book, which we find hilarious, and then we review it on our podcast.
Kurika and Shirabe, because you can't separate the two, do finally get married. Shirabe is a Olympic ice skater. She is a gold medalist. And Kurika opens a year-round Halloween store. It runs at a profit somehow.
Does she end up competing strongly against Party City?
She runs Party City out of fucking business.
I do love how much of this is accidentally turning into venture capital in these epilogues.
Well, here's the thing, right? Like, she knows that Party City's is exploiting their workers, and Kurika no longer believes in exploitation due to her character development. So all of her workers are it's a co-op. And the only thing that she holds over them is that they have to end all of their sentences with death.
You know what? Yeah, I could see that. I can 100% see that. Down to the workers go up bit. Okay. Tsubasa does continue singing, as you'd mentioned. We finally, get back together with Tony Glazer and resume the career on that. But also she ends up picking up swordsmithing as a hobby. The way she sees it, since blades only wear down other blades, it proves that she is not a blade, because she doesn't wear down other blades, she sharpens them. So
I will also mention one of the Tsubasa character developments that we did miss out. She did not blow up any motorcycles.
That's true.
In this season. No motorcycles were harmed in the making of this season.
God, I'm so proud
which
of
I
her.
believe puts the total motorcycle destruction at 6.
Which is still a lot of motorcycles.
Still a ton of fucking motorcycles. So I believe that Maria and Tsubasa would sing together. I feel like the one moment they had in XV and in GX where they do sing together, was something that was sort of a passion between those two, and the paparazzi is constantly trying to catch them dating, but they can't do it. It's definitely happening, but they cannot find it.
I do have a part 2 for Tsubasa.
What's part 2?
She gets a lot of otaku customers, and normally she lectures them for being dweebs, but eventually she ends up in a major cooperation to make a sword for a highly anticipated collaborative anime, but she's not credited, so, you know.
Is that a Gibiate thing?
You tell me.
So Hibiki and Miku also get married, and Miku drops out of high school because fuck school for Hibiki. She does get her GED, but I did send you a fan art that is my belief of what Hibiki does after the events of Symphogear. Using Gunganir and her love for punching things and training, Hibiki becomes the new head of song.
Oh, I fucking love that.
She wears Genjiro's outfit, the same exact outfit, just red button up with the pants. And she turns song into more of a humanitarian effort, but anytime that someone really needs to be punched in the face, she's on the fucking seat.
I love it. I also love the idea that they essentially they go more public because it's a humanitarian thing, and part of the reason is because Hibiki doesn't want to do the paperwork that normally gets handed out to everybody who, you know, ends up getting caught up in songs.
Well, and that's what Miku does. Miku runs the logistics of it, because she really has been running Hibiki's logistics for the entire fucking series.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. After all, they need to give Kazunari some time to readjust to the world of the internet and its splendorous, unending amount of DVDs to buy.
Kazunari learns about streaming, doesn't care for it. It's just too simple. So that's our fan epilogues for all the important characters. Hibiki's friends start a cooking show where they sing about recipes and they're awful. That wasn't in our list of things to talk about, but I totally forgot about them because they did not make a fucking appearance in this season.
Do you think that they're like part of the weird like viral trend of women doing really awful cooking recipes as like short videos?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And
they're just like pouring like cheese out of a can onto like a granite tabletop, and they're just fucking mashing a bunch of like dry ingredients into it, and then they put it into an oven.
Yeah, and the title of their TikTok channel that does it is "The Boys Don't Know."
Boys don't know this.
So we have come to the end of our Symphogear saga. A wild ride it has been. During this time, I have been going through the discussions every time we finish it up to see what people's reactions were, and I gotta say that the initial reactions to Symphogear and then seeing Symphogear XV really shows this incredibly funny growth, where it was, wow, this show's weird. Whoa, this show's actually pretty hype, all the way up to people having their own bingo cards, in-universe memes. This guy stitched together a bunch of different pictures and screen caps he's taken from all the series. There's just a lot of love for the series, and I really do appreciate the community that it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think there's a coincidence in my anime list having this, with 10,000 people scoring the show, and more than half of that have favorited it, that it has 678 favorites.
Absolutely. This show is in a league of its own. And with that, that is the end of our episode. If you liked what we talked about, go check out some of our older stuff. I think a really good one to watch is our first year anniversary compilation. You get to hear us make all 16 jokes that made us laugh. And you get to kind of get a understanding of the energy that we like to bring. I have a Twitter. We'll link it in the description. We talk about. I tweet about random shit. Sometimes Brantley's fan art gets posted on there.
Fan art in air quotes.
Yes, more of meme art.
Next episode, we're going to cover Megalobox.
Yes.
And its second season, Nomad.
Yes, absolutely.
So if you're someone who takes to all the hibiki punching that you've gotten through Symphogear, and you haven't already watched Megalobox, go watch that and then check out a review on it.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a lot of punching in it.
There's a ton of punching.
Some might say that it's mostly punching.
Well, the first season is. Second season has very little punching.
That's true. It's emotional gut punches rather than physical.
Yes. If you liked what you heard, be sure to like, comment, subscribe. I do read almost every comment we get, and I try to send something back. Or you don't need to do any of this because we are not your dads.
Whew. Okay, that's all done. Hey, so you're gonna let me out, right? I mean, you locked me in here when we started, and well, we're done. So, Grant.